Welcome into the Saints Insider Postgame Show. Zach Ewing here with you live from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, where the New Orleans Saints beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-13, keeping their playoff hopes alive at least until the final day of the regular season next week. Saints victorious in this one, got off to a big 20-0 lead, kind of held on at the end, mostly a comfortable win, 23-13. We welcome you in here and appreciate all of your comments and questions. We're going to have visits from Jeff Duncan, Luke Johnson, Matthew Paris a little later in the show, go through the stats, talk about the game, all of that stuff. So the Saints get the big win. This is a game we had circled for really the last month, saying this could be the game that the Saints need to win to get that division crown. Well, they came into Tampa Bay. They did it. Unfortunately, the way everything else is kind of broken down, Saints still need to win next week, and they still need help next week to get that division crown, and it's going to take some unlikely help as well. So we'll talk about that as we go on. But the Saints do win this one 23-13. The Saints Insider Postgame Show is brought to you by Tulane Doctors. We appreciate them as well. And as Jeff Duncan and Luke Johnson and Matthew Paris will be on a little bit later. Hopefully not too much background noise. They are mowing the grass here at Raymond James Stadium as they get ready for the ReliaQuest Bowl in the morning between LSU and Wisconsin right here on this turf in, 18 hours or so, 20 hours. And so that's the next thing at this stadium. They got to repaint the turf. They got to mow the grass, all of that good stuff. But today it is the Louisiana team emerging victorious 23-13. Saints build a 20-0 lead. It was 17-0 at halftime. Added a field goal in the third quarter. Still led it 20-0 going to the fourth. Bucks did start to rally. They get a touchdown midway through the fourth quarter. Saints answer with kind of a key drive. Took about 3 or 4 minutes off the clock, kicked a field goal. Kind of think it's over at that point, 23-7. Bucks kept fighting, man. They had a long pass to Trey Palmer, 54 yards, but he fumbles at the end of it as he hits the ground. Ike Yadam able to recover that for the Saints and give them another possession. You really think it's over at that point. The Saints go 3 and out. Bucks get a quick touchdown to Chris Godwin with 1 minute and 36 seconds left. And they initially got the 2-point conversion called good on the field. That makes it a 1-score game, and the Saints were in a position where they really needed to recover an onside kick to win this game. But then after review, it turned out Godwin had stepped out of the end zone on the 2-point conversion. Saints redo it, and Paulson Adebo intercepts Baker Mayfield. So the Saints hold on and win this one 23-13. So in the end, just about as good as you could hope for from the New Orleans Saints today, and a team that's been under a lot of fire, a lot of pressure in this last month. Head coach Dennis Allen on the hot seat, maybe still on the hot seat, but they came up with a good effort today. Saints win it 23-13, and they will play the Atlanta Falcons next weekend. And when that game kicks off, their playoff hopes will still be alive and well. We don't know about when it ends. They need to beat the Falcons. They also need the Carolina Panthers to beat these Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then if that happens, if the Panthers upset the Buccaneers, the winner of that Falcons-Saints game actually wins the NFC South. And because of that, we can talk more about this, but because of that, I have a suspicion, nothing official yet, but a suspicion the NFL may move Falcons at Saints to Saturday. It will be a very interesting Saturday game for the league to show both teams still alive for the division. They both need to win, and no matter what happens in that game, Tampa Bay would still need to beat Carolina on Sunday, so it wouldn't really affect any other game. So I think there's a good chance we see Saints-Falcons as a Saturday game, kind of a TV showcase for the NFL on Saturday night. We'll see. That announcement would come later tonight, probably during the Sunday night football game. So the Saints win it. Still need a lot of help. We'll take a look at these division standings here up to the minute. Saints and Bucks both 8-8. They're both 3-2 in the division, and they've split their head-to-head meetings. And so they, at this point are tied for the division, but in common opponents, the Bucks really jumped out of that category the last couple of weeks with victories over the Green Bay Packers and Jacksonville Jaguars. And so the Bucks are ahead on tiebreaker, and it would remain that way if both teams win or both teams lose next week. The interesting thing actually is you see the Falcons at 7-9. If both the Saints and Bucks lose, that means the Falcons beat the Saints. You'd have a 3-way tie at 8-9, and the Falcons actually would win the 3-way tie because of their better division record. They'd be 4-2 in the division at that point. So Saints-Falcons winner wins the division if the Bucs lose to the Panthers. If the Bucs win, they win the division crown. So, yeah, Lucas says the Panthers ain't anything. Panthers have played tough. They did not play very well today. They got beat up in Jacksonville, but they did play the Bucs tough here a few weeks ago. I think it was 21-18 Bucs, and they played the Green Bay Packers tough a couple of weeks ago. They played the Atlanta Falcons tough in Carolina and won that game. So the Panthers are 2-14. Look, the Bucs should win that game. You would expect their maximum effort to go on the road and clinch the division. But it's not like the Bucs. It's not like we're talking about one of the NFL's best teams. And you see it every week in the NFL. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles lost to the Arizona Cardinals today at home. So anything can happen. I don't think it's a gimme that the Bucs beat the Panthers. And it would certainly, they're going to feel some pressure in that game because either way, if the Bucs lose that game, they are out of the playoffs. Because they're out of the playoffs. Because even if the Falcons-Saints game were to end in a tie, the Saints at 8-1 would have a better record than the Bucs at 8-9. So no matter what happens, the Bucs absolutely have to win that game. So they will feel a little bit of pressure next week, and anything can happen. As far as the wild card race, and good comment here from Marcus, the Green Bay game hurts. I mean, pretty similar to today's game in a lot of ways. The Saints had a 17-0 lead in that game going to the fourth quarter and ultimately lost 18-17. Blake Grupe missed a field goal, had a chance to retake the lead. Derek Carr went out injured. If the Saints win that game, they are in the catbird seat right now. They would certainly be just a win away from the playoffs, and that would change a bunch of wild card tiebreakers too. And let's take a look at those wild card standings, Patrick. I think that's slide 3, and the wild card is it's a jumbled mess right now, but we can say the LA Rams beat the New York Giants 26-25. The Giants miss a 54-yard field goal at the very end of the game. They also went for 2 a couple of minutes before that and missed that. And they missed an extra earlier in the game. So the Rams hold on to beat the Giants 26-25. That means the Saints cannot catch the Rams because if they did win next week, even if the Rams lose to the 49ers, the Rams obviously beat the Saints in Week 16 last Thursday, so the Rams would hold that spot over the Saints. Saints basically lose every tiebreaker there is. So the only way the Saints can get a wild card at this point would be they would have to beat the Falcons. They need the Seahawks to lose both of their remaining games. Seahawks playing Pittsburgh and Seattle right now. They play the Cardinals next week. So you need both of those, and they would need whoever wins the Packers-Vikings game tonight on Sunday Night Football, they would need that team to turn around and lose in Week 18. That's the only way the Saints can get a wild card. So a much simpler path is for them to beat the Falcons, have the Panthers beat the Bucs, and if Seattle wins this afternoon, then the wild card is completely out. Obviously, still half a chance if the Steelers win that game in Seattle this afternoon, and a couple of different paths for the Saints. But either way, we'll see. I mean, like I said, this is nothing but personal speculation. But I am thinking the Saints may play Saturday afternoon or Saturday night, and if that's the case, then they could win and just sit on their couch and hope on Sunday, hope that they get a backdoor ticket into the playoffs. So that's the story here from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. We're going to take a quick break on the Saints Insider postgame show. We'll be back with a little bit of play-by-play and look at the stats from today's games. More of your comments and questions and still awaiting visits from Jeff Duncan, Luke Johnson, and Matthew Paris a little bit later. Be back right after this.
We are Tulane doctors. Physicians and scientists working side by side to advance academic medicine. We give our community access to the best possible medical remedies, developing state-of-the-art treatments to improve quality of life, address public health crises, and cure disease. All in passionate pursuit of our mission to provide inspired patient care for generations to come. Tulane Doctors. The future of medicine is here.
The Times-Picayune always gets it right. Jay's on top.
Not quite. It says here the Crusaders are the best.
I think you mean the Greenies, buddy.
These sports writers know what's up.
At least you're wearing the right colors, but we know why people read the paper. The one thing we can all agree on, we trust the Times-Picayune.
Subscribe today. Read it today. Trust it today. The Times-Picayune.
You're never gonna make the front page wearing that.
Back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show live from Tampa. I'm Zach Ewing. We'll be joined later by Jeff Duncan, Luke Johnson, Matthew Paris as they exit the Saints locker room. They will have whatever information we can get on the injuries, Alvin Kamara and Landon Young, the two injuries the Saints suffered in this game. Both those guys left. Landon Young, it did not look good. It was a knee injury. He was helped off the field. Kamara, a little bit more strange. He left at halftime. I don't think anybody knew he was injured at the half. I didn't. And then when the Saints came out on offense in the second half, Kamara was not out there. And they ultimately announced he had an ankle injury, was questionable to return, and ultimately was ruled out for the game. So Alvin Kamara, the biggest one. Also, Nephi Sewell looked to suffer what was almost certainly a season-ending knee injury. He was off the field in the first half as well. So reserve linebacker for the Saints, he is probably done for the year and actually had done some pretty good work for them, allowing the Saints to move Zach Vaughn into more of a pass rushing role. And Zach Vaughn did get a sack today. And so Nephi Sewell may be a bigger loss than people realize as well. But look, it happens in an NFL season. You have to continue to move on. Saints will play the Atlanta Falcons either Saturday or Sunday in the Superdome with their season on the line again. But today at Raymond James Stadium, it is Saints 23, Bucs 13. And want to let you know that this season's post-game coverage is brought to you by Tulane Doctors. When it comes to healthcare, choose a partner that sets the standard. Tulane Doctors are bringing the medicine of tomorrow to the Gulf South today. Find your physician at TulaneDoctors.com. A quick score update from Seattle. It is 7-7 between the Steelers and Seahawks. Steelers scored first on a Jalen Warren touchdown run. That was answered by a Kenneth Walker touchdown run for Seattle. So they're 7-7. The Steelers are in the red zone right now, early second quarter. So that's a game. Saints need some help from the Steelers to stay alive in the wild card race. But again, even if they get it, you're asking for the Seahawks to lose to the Arizona Cardinals next week, which, hey, the Cardinals went to Philadelphia, won a big game today. Could they win again to end the season on a high note? It's possible. Anything's possible. It would be at Arizona. And then the Saints would also need a loss by whichever team wins the Packers-Vikings game on Sunday Night Football tonight. The Vikings are Detroit to play the Lions next week, but the Lions don't have a lot to play for. The Packers would be at home next week to play the Chicago Bears, who are actually playing very well. They thumped the Atlanta Falcons 37-17 today. So that's possible. Again, you'd like as many paths to the playoffs as you can get. It all starts with the Saints needing to beat the Falcons. It actually all started today with the Saints needing to beat the Buccaneers, and they do get that done. 23-13. Going to go through kind of a scoring summary here. Let's see. A couple of comments first. El Rey, I give up predicting what the Saints will do. It's like throwing darts blindfolded on a merry-go-round. I mean, like Luke Johnson, I'm sure he'll bring it up, but he picked the Saints to win this week, and we all kind of looked at him cross-eyed. He said, the only thing you can expect with this team is the unexpected. And here we are after kind of burying this team a couple of times. Saints have won 3 out of 4. They come in here, the Bucs. I mean, I can tell you the city of Tampa was confident. Everyone we talked to yesterday, spending the day here in Tampa, was confident. This crowd walked in confident, kind of had a buzz about the place in the first quarter. And the Saints took the ball and shoved it right down their throat on the first drive of the game. It was just a really, really nice drive. A couple of other comments. Stefan says Jamal Williams looking good. He did. And he may be RB1 going into next week. We'll try to get an update about Alvin Kamara, but Jamal Williams very well might be running back number 1 heading into that Atlanta game. Luke is 13-3. Yes, he's got some run. I tried picking the Saints when nobody thought they would win against Detroit and LA, and that didn't work out. So, not good. What else do we got? If doesn't get hurt against the Packers, we have 10 wins easy. Yeah, maybe probably have 9 right now, and then we'll see about the Falcons. But it's a season full of coulda, woulda, shoulda, unless the Saints can beat Atlanta and get the help they need, and then it's a season of just having enough, and it would end with a home playoff game. or possibly a wild card game. We'll see what happens in that situation. So quick glance at sort of the play-by-play. As I mentioned, the Saints took the ball first time all year long. They scored a touchdown on their opening drive. They lost the coin toss. Tampa Bay deferred. New Orleans gets the ball. They go 73 yards in 14 plays, 7 minutes and 56 seconds. I mean, it was a big boy drive. It was a big boy drive, and I think the Saints only had 1 third down on the entire drive. Actually, they had 2. They had because the touchdown was scored on 3rd and goal. They completed a 3rd and 7 Carr to Olave for 11 yards, and then they on the 3rd and goal from the 4, Carr finds Jawan Johnson for the touchdown and makes it 7-0 Saints. It remained 7-0 Saints for most of the first half. The Bucs did drive into New Orleans territory on their second drive, but threw an interception. Alontae Taylor, his first career interception, and backed the Saints up at like the 2, but they ended up getting out of the shadow of their own goalpost, punting it away. So it stayed 7-0 until the 1:53 mark of the second half, when Derek Carr hit Taysom Hill. First play out of the 2-minute warning, it's Taysom Hill for a 22-yard touchdown. That made it 14-0. And the Saints, by the way, they very well might have won this game in the last 2 minutes of the first half. They played them really, really brilliantly. The timing was good and everything. They score that touchdown with 1:53 left. They stop the Bucs 3 and out, call a timeout to get the ball back, and then they only have to go 19 yards on the final drive of the half and end up with a 45-yard Blake Grupe field goal. And so what was a 7-0 game at the 2-minute warning turns into a 17-0 halftime lead for the Saints. So that was key. We talk about some stretches that have gone bad for the Saints. The last 2 minutes of the first half 10 days ago in Los Angeles were terrible, probably cost the Saints that game. They may very well have won this game with those final 2 minutes of the first half today. So they're up 17-0, really a dominating first half for the Saints. Only 44 yards of for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 3 of those came on 1 completion to Mike Evans, and that was a play where Paulson Adebo coming out of his break, and that allowed Evans to be wide open. Baker Mayfield hit him for a 33-yard gain. You take that play out, the Bucs gained 11 yards plays with a turnover in that first half. So the Saints defense just utterly dominant in that first half. And they were pretty good in the third quarter too. Now in the fourth quarter, the Bucs racked up, I believe it was 220 yards in the fourth quarter alone. So if you do that math, it's like, I think the Bucs had 3 of offense in the second half, 300 or something like that. They had 220 in the, that's on pace for 800. Got it going. The Saints defense did wilt a little bit, but New Orleans, they had a big enough lead. Third scoring was opened up after, in fact, the Bucs got some of those yards on a nice drive. Their second drive of the second half, they got inside the into New Orleans territory and then inside the 30 on a Rashad White run that was actually went in the books as a 16-yard run. But Jonathan Abram, who forced 2 turnovers today, Jonathan Abram punches that ball out. It was recovered by Demario Davis, returned back to the 45, and the Saints put together a short drive and get a field goal to go up 20-0. So at that point, I mean, like, the route is on. I mean, the Saints would have liked more touchdowns to kind of make it really out of reach, but it's 20-0. The interception from Jonathan Abram, 2 drives later, that was into the fourth quarter at the 11:34 mark, and you really think the game's over at that point. Abram intercepts Mayfield. There's 11:34 left. Saints have a 20-0, or the Saints have a 20-0 lead at that point. They did have to punt it away. Bucs go 91 yards in 8 plays and score a touchdown. Their first touchdown was a 22-yard strike from Mayfield to Trey Palmer. So it's 20-7. Key drive then for the Saints. They went 43 yards in 9 plays and got a field goal, and crucially took 4 minutes off the clock and made Tampa Bay use, I believe, 2 of their 3 timeouts. So you made them use 2 timeouts and you drain 4 minutes off the clock. Really a key drive there for Derek Carr in the offense. And Jamal Williams ran hard on that drive. Adam Prentice had a 7-yard run on 3rd and 7. So we had an Adam Prentice sighting. And ultimately a 38-yard Blake Grupe field goal makes it 23-7 with just 3:48 left. And at that point, you think the Saints have this thing in the bag. Kind of got a little crazy at the end. Baker Mayfield hits Palmer for what ended up being a 54-yard gain on the first play of the next drive. He goes all the way down to the 21-yard line right here, and the Bucs would have had a chance to score before the 2-minute warning, possibly get a 2-point conversion to make it a 1. They would have had at that point. But when Palmer hits the ground, he fumbles. Isaac Yiadom recovers it. That's the 4th Saints takeaway on the day. And And the Bucs, by the way, came into the game tied for second in the NFL with only it was either 14 or giveaway in the season. That was second in the NFL. Took it away 4 times today, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, and again, at that point, you really think it's over. Saints go 3 and out, have to punt. Bucs go 54 yards in 2 plays. The last one, a 47-yard touchdown pass, Mayfield to Chris Godwin. Right here, I didn't totally understand that. I don't know why Chris Godwin was in one-on-one coverage. He beat the corner and gets a 47-yard touchdown. You got to be in a shell there. And look, if the Bucs score, fine, they score, but make them take a minute to do. A minute to go. Instead, they got it with a minute 37 to a 2-point conversion at the end. But it was ruled that Edmund had walked out of the end zone for coming an illegal touching penalty. Bucs had to redo it, and that time Paulson Adebo gets the interception. That one doesn't count as a takeaway. It would have been the 5th, but on a 2-point conversion, it doesn't count. But still, Saints defense very opportunistic, and they will need to be again next week. It all comes down to their game against the Atlanta Falcons. Some final stats. Let's talk about the tight ends. You know what? We're going to take a break first. Let's take a break first, and then we'll come back and talk some stats. Still awaiting visits from Jeff Duncan, Luke Johnson, Matthew Paris here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. We'll be back right after this.
We are Tulane doctors. Physicians and scientists working side by side to advance academic medicine. We give our community access to the best possible medical remedies, developing state-of-the-art treatments to improve quality of life, address public health crises, and cure disease. All in passionate pursuit of our mission to provide inspired patient care for generations to come. Tulane doctors. The future of medicine is here.
The Times-Picayune always gets it right. Jay's on top.
Not quite. It says here the Crusaders are the best.
I think you mean the Greenies, buddy. These sports writers know what's up.
At least you're wearing the right colors, but we know why people read the paper. The one thing we can all agree on, we trust the Times-Picayune.
Subscribe today. Read it today. Trust it today. The Times-Picayune.
You're never gonna make the front page wearing that.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show, brought to you by Tulane Doctors. Zach Ewing here at Raymond James Stadium, live from Tampa with Matthew Paris, enjoying the Florida weather. It's been a brilliant day. I mean, Saints' first outdoor game in almost 3 months. It was October the 8th in New England was their last one, and they get 65-degree sunny weather, so we can't complain about that.
Yeah, it was probably better weather here today than it was then, maybe in New England that time of year.
Yeah, I think it might have been a little chilly that day. So Saints get it done. This is Matthew Paris, Saints beat writer for the Times-Picayune. 23-13, the final. Game probably wasn't even that close. The Saints kind of let the Bucs back into it just for a minute at the end, but truly, really a dominant performance for this team.
Yeah, no, the Buccaneers pulled like a page from the Saints playbook, starting slow, not looking competitive at all, and then, kind of threatening it late. But I was really impressed with what the Saints were able to do today. Just the way that they were able to shut down Baker Mayfield was super impressive early, and then the offense, the way they were able to get the tight ends involved early, they had some success running the ball a little bit. And Derek Carr, I thought that was one of his better games as well, just in terms of the protection for him, especially. Tampa Bay sent a ton of nickel blitzes and corners and stuff like that, and they were able to handle it relatively flawlessly.
Yeah, they just, and I mean, right from the beginning, took the ball, 8-minute drive to start the game, scored a touchdown to Jawan Johnson. And controlled this game from start to finish, which is something we've been saying on the Saints Insider podcast for weeks. Like, the Saints can just get off to a good start, control the game. That's how this team wants to play. Yeah,
and it was something interesting in the post-game press conference. Jawan Johnson was talking about kind of how that they were able to do last week. I think in the Giants game, he scored on that fade route, right? Well, he ran a rub route and then went into a fade and scored that touchdown against the Rams. Well, this week they ran the same concept, but instead of going for the fade route, he cut back in to fool Tampa, and they were able to take advantage of it. So I think they're really kind of starting to build off some of the progress they've had here lately. But, it's also the second to last week in the season, and maybe they're running out of time, but they did all you could ask for today.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a shame for the Saints because they have won 3 out of 4. They go into next weekend's game against the Falcons with some momentum, but still need a significant amount of help here. But, in all cases, unlikely help to get into the playoffs. So I'm curious to know the vibe in the locker room. I mean, do they feel like, hey, this is still a long shot? Are they energized? I mean, what's the feeling in there?
Yeah, I mean, Luke will be the locker room guy. He handled that while
Okay.
I was in postgame. But in the postgame press conferences, they were very cheery. Like, they realized that they had to take care of business today. That was really all that was asked for them. I think they were really pleased with the response over these 10 days, the 10-day break that they had after the Rams game. And, that Rams game was tough for them. They were pretty dejected after that. They were in down spirits, but you just tell going into the locker room, we passed the players as they were entering. We saw Dennis Allen kind of dapping up guys as they were entering. So, I think they were pretty satisfied with their performance, all things considered.
One of the more surprising things to me, I didn't feel like Tampa Bay brought a lot of energy today at all for a team that could have clinched its division, its final home game, and now they go into next week with some pressure on them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was flabbergasted with how they approached this game in terms of just they came out super flat. They didn't really have any success, but even things like can't remember the guys when they fumbled late.
Trey Palmer.
Yeah. Thank you. When Trey Palmer fumbled late, I mean, that was a wide open catch. He tripped over his own feet. The ground caused the fumble, but since he wasn't touched, it was a live fumble. So, they're just shooting themselves in the foot and looking at, like, if they miss the playoffs this year, I think that fumble is going to haunt Buccaneers fans for a long time.
And the Saints very well could have let the Bucs right back in this game.
Yeah.
If Palmer doesn't fumble that ball, I think there was 3.5 minutes left that they could score before the 2-minute warning. Say they wouldn't have even had to try an onside.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely, and even late, you look at the 2-point conversion that was wiped out because the receiver went out of bounds there. They made just so many errors that really just prevented them from getting in this one. But I think you have to give the Saints a lot of credit for that because I think they forced them into a lot of those mistakes.
Bucs end up outgaining the Saints, actually, kind of funny, 220 yards in the fourth quarter. But when things were really working for the Saints, they get 120 yards between their two tight ends. Juwan Johnson had 90 yards and a touchdown. Taysom Hill had 30 yards receiving and a touchdown. We're counting Taysom as a tight end for purposes of this. Something we thought we'd see more from this offense, but today it really came to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, Derek Carr was really spreading the ball around. Part of that is Juwan Johnson's success over the past few games. You look at the Giants, he scored there, had 4 catches and a touchdown against the Rams last week. And, it changed pretty significantly. But Dennis Allen was saying after the game that this week they realized that I think Tampa Bay was a little bit they knew they had an opportunity there to use their tight ends. And because they were encouraged with what they saw in Johnson the last 2 weeks, they felt more comfortable relying on the tight ends.
All right, he's Matthew Paris, beat writer for the Times-Picayune NOLA.com. You can find his work there. Appreciate it, Matt. And we'll bring in Luke Johnson, the other beat writer here. Let you make the handoff.
Howdy.
Don't let that hit the ground. Fumble it. Trey Palmer.
Oh man, I feel bad for the New Orleans native. New Orleans? Is he New Orleans or is he just Louisiana?
I don't know.
It's one of the two.
Yeah,
he's from Louisiana,
but he kind of coughed it up. I don't want to focus too much on the ending. I mean, Luke, the Saints dominated this game and they deserve to win.
Absolutely. Yeah. And look, I think they tried to play a little bit of the run the clock out offense late. I think if they really needed to turn it on, we could have done a little bit more offensively. It certainly wasn't pretty at the end of the game, but they still won by 10 points, and they pretty comfortably dominated Tampa throughout much of that game. So I don't think you should be, especially the way the season's gone, I don't think you can look at the way the last 5 minutes or 7 minutes of that game happened and be like, well, let's take away from the team. That was a really good team effort by the Saints today.
I mean, would you say the first half, Saints going to the locker room up 17-0, probably the best half this team's played here?
Yeah, and I mean, like I think you could argue that they play better halves against and maybe the Giants or the Patriots. We came away from both those games saying this is what this team can be, but like this is the first time they did it against a team that had a pulse.
Yeah.
So look, Tampa had won 4 straight coming in. Baker Mayfield was playing incredible. Tampa went. They should have gone 3-and-out in their first 5 drives today. They got bailed out by a couple penalties on one of them, and they ended up throwing a pick. The Saints were getting after those guys, and those guys are playing at a very high level. I think the Saints defensive line played probably one of its best games of the season, if not the best. And obviously the secondary, they gave up some big plays late, but those guys were making plays on the ball, and they were making life hard on those receivers in the back end. So I think that was the most encouraging thing out of it. Obviously the offense did some really nice things early in this game, but defensively, that was the kind of performance that you really needed to see today.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about on the podcast, the Bucs very good in not turning the ball over this year. The Saints took it away 4 times, plus the interception on the 2-point conversion. So very opportunistic defense. And on the other side, efficiency. Derek Carr, 24-32. He goes 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, one sack, I think. Just a really good day.
Yeah, and the sack, he was just like running out of bounds trying to throw the ball away. It wasn't even like I thought that was a very good first half from them offensively. And in the second half, they were trying to just salt the game away, and they were trying to do it with one running back. So, but look, I thought the offensive line played another really good game today. I think they played a lot better in the second half of the season. Today they were opening up lanes for the running backs. They were giving Derek Carr time to throw. I thought Carr was really decisive with the football today, which is I think been one of his weaker points this year. Is he sometimes lets a play develop a little bit too long, and today I thought he was operating the offense in rhythm, and it looked really, really good. And this is without a big day from Alvin Kamara or Chris Olave.
Yeah.
They were getting Jawan Johnson involved, and they were getting other guys the football, and I think it was just top to bottom. Lou Hedley had a really nice game. Blake Grupe went 3 for 3. Rashid Shaheed had a number of good returns. I think this was outside of the last 7 minutes of the game, this was their best performance of the year because of who they did it against and what the stakes were.
Every now and then they show you what we all thought they would be, and maybe they'll have enough time. Speaking of Alvin Kamara, any sort of update on his status?
I actually was not in there even for Dennis Allen, so I don't know if he even addressed it after the game because they opened the locker room up pretty quickly. So I don't have any update on him, but Jeff or Matt might be able to get one.
We'll ask Jeff. Matt didn't either. At this point, postgame usually don't get a whole. But the Saints now go into hate week. They play the Falcons this season. I've been saying it. I have a sneaking suspicion it's a Saturday game. It's the perfect setup for a Saturday game where both teams have something to play for.
Yep.
And no matter who wins, the Bucs would still have to take care of business in Carolina. So would be a good Saturday game. We'll see what happens. Obviously, that would make it a short week for the Saints. But what's their mood? I mean, they still need a lot of help to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, but I think their mood is good. It feels good to win. Like I walked into the locker room today, and they were playing. I can't name the song. I don't know the song. I would know it if I heard it. But Blake Grupe was just in the corner of the locker room, just like dancing. Like
it wasn't the Munchkin song.
Come on, man.
That's not
fair.
He's as tall as I am.
He's
I had to go there. Yeah.
But I mean, they've had so few of those moments this year. It feels like so few moments where they just like feel good about where they are, and they feel really good about where they are. It be for nothing. They've got to rely on a bunch of other things to happen, a bunch of unlikely things.
Yeah.
The most likely scenario is that they're out of the playoffs next week, and they could do that themselves. They could easily lose to Atlanta next week, but they're feeling really good about themselves right now. This has been kind of a dark time of year for the Saints team. There's been a lot of negative comments, stories, social media posts, whatever you want to call it. So let them have their nice moment for even if it's just last week. It was good to see a happy locker room today.
They end 2023 with a victory, hoping to start 2024 with a victory. I was going to hand off to Jeff Duncan. He just got a phone call.
Okay,
so
well,
just walked off.
While he's doing that, then we should give a shout out to Adam Prentice, by the way.
Let's do it.
Adam Prentice, the last time he touched a football at an NFL football game, he was given the ball at his own 1 yard line. He had a nice run, and it got stripped out by Antoine Winfield. And it was this critical play in that game, and they lost, right? Bucs went up. They scored a touchdown right after that. They went up 14-3 at halftime. They ended up beating the brakes of the Saints. Today, they're down Alvin Kamara. Jamal Williams is gassed. They got a 3rd and 7. They put Adam Prentice in there, and he's like, I guess I'm just going in there for protection. And they give him the football. And he converts it on a 7-yard run. It was a huge play in the game. It allowed him to salt off another.
I think the Bucs had to call another timeout.
Yeah, I think they had to call 2 timeouts after that. And it salted off like another minute of the clock. So it was a huge play, and the guy deserves some credit for stepping up. The last time he touched the ball, he was the GOAT. in the bad way, not the greatest of all time way.
Yeah, the old fashioned way. Yeah,
that's right. For the kids out there,
you can hear the lawnmowers in the background, and they're like turning lights on and testing them and painting. LSU plays here in like 19 hours or something to ring in the new year. You got a prediction as a Tiger grad, LSU, Wisconsin.
Yeah, this is a big game for me because I grew up in Wisconsin, and then I went to school at LSU. So my prediction is going to be rolling with my alma mater, man. We're all aboard the Nuss bus, and I think he's going to throw for about 350 yards on pretty good defense. And he's going to make some plays where you're just like, what are you doing? And he's going to make some plays that are like, wow.
4 TDs, 2 picks.
Yeah. So I feel pretty confident in the old alma mater getting it done tomorrow. And as soon as I say that, they're probably going to lose in devastating fashion.
We shall see. They'll visit these end zones a few times tomorrow. He's Luke Johnson, beat writer for the Times-Picayune. We'll bring in Jeff Duncan now to wrap things up here on the Saints Insider postgame show.
Content creator.
Content
creator.
Exactly.
You guys can see the video later.
Exactly. Jeff, you thought you were going to write the Saints obit today, end 2023, wearing black, but instead, Saints stay alive for at least another week.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest with you. Once I got here today, started talking to some people on the sidelines, officials before the game. They had a really good, positive vibe about themselves. They knew they were going to play well today. Now, whether that was going to be good enough to win or not, they didn't know, but they definitely felt good about their chances coming in. I didn't feel that way until I got here and talked to some people on the side of the game. Once I got here, I thought they're going to give it their best shot. They were all in today. The same energy, focus, enthusiasm we saw from the Saints today was missing last week in LA. And I thought the Saints against the Rams looked a lot like the Bucs today, very flat. It's a week-to-week league, Zach. We see this all the time. At the end of the season, the teams are the most consistent and bring it the most times during a 17-game season are the ones that end up on top. Today, the Saints had it. They didn't have it last week, but they put themselves in position now to get a chance. I mean, they've given themselves a chance, which is really all you can ask for.
Yeah, and on the Bucs side, the Saints, look, the Rams game was a huge game. It was a huge letdown, but at least they had the excuse of a short week, a cross-country flight. And the Bucs were here last week, won a big game, could clinch the division at home. Now they got to go do it on the road in a must-win game. I mean, kind of strange from the Tampa Bay side.
Yeah, Todd Bowles, you could tell, was really upset afterward, very disappointed. You could hear it in his voice, see it in his face. They had a chance, and they let an opportunity slip away. Now they're going to have to win on the road in Charlotte. They should take care of business, but you never know in this league. And I'm sure they had their T-shirts and hats printed up and on standby in boxes outside the locker room, and have to wait another week before they don them. So the Saints now know what's in front of them. They got a home game. We don't know if it's going to be flexed or not to Saturday. We'll know probably
sometime
in a few
tonight.
hours. Yeah, I think in a few hours, talking to some Saints people, they think they'll announce maybe in the next couple hours.
Are they thinking Saturday as well? That's what I've been saying.
They didn't say anyway, one way or the other. I would think it would be because both teams have something to play for. The league usually announces this thing sometimes, right after the 3:00 games are over. So, but they know what they have to do now. They have to beat Atlanta at home. Now, Alvin Kamara's injury, I think, makes this thing a little tricky. But look, they won today for the most part without him down the stretch. I mean, they were dominant today, Zach. This is, in my opinion, the best performance of the season when you consider everything that was on the line, how well Tampa had been playing. You're on the road. We've written over and over when they played teams with winning records. They haven't been, or at least 500 level teams. They haven't really been competitive. Today, they weren't just competitive. I mean, they dominated. And I thought they won the game in the trenches. They were much more physical than the Bucs on both sides of the ball. I wrote about this. I mean, Dennis Allen put the team through a full pads practice on Wednesday. That's highly unusual this late in the year to go full pads. And that was sending a message to his players that they had to win the battle of the trenches today, and they certainly did that. So obviously the message resonated. I think he challenged the players about their commitment and their loyalty to each other and to the team this week. They responded again. So all that stuff resonated. That's a very good sign.
Any feeling on Kamara? Kind of a strange deal. He didn't even know he was hurt until he just came out of the locker room at halftime and then rolled out with that ankle.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a tough guy. He's very durable. He's played throughout these, injuries throughout his career. But an ankle injury for a running back, very difficult. We'll just have to see how it responds to treatment this week. They could get Kendre Miller back. I mean, he was close to coming back. He had a little bit of a setback this week. But they're going to need all hands on deck next week because Atlanta's got something to play for now. they're still alive as well, so it won't be a walkover by any means.
No, in fact, if the Bucs should lose to Carolina, that game will be the NFC South championship between the Falcons and Saints, which it looks like it may be done beforehand. So we don't know. Any other takeaways? I thought offense was efficient while the defense was dominant, and obviously the defense kind of slips up a bit at the end, maybe kind of an emotional letdown, but they hold on in the end.
Yeah, I thought the MVP of the game was the Saints offensive line. I mean, they've had trouble protecting Derek Carr all year. Today he had all kinds of time, and we see maybe what the formula was supposed to be for this Saints offense. They were running the ball pretty well. No big, huge gains, but really solid 4 to 7 yard gains, keeping the chains moving. And with the protection that Carr was getting, he had plenty of time to find open receivers downfield. And I also thought the receivers played very well. That catch by Juwan Johnson was one of the best catches I've seen all year long. And really not a lot of drops or anything. I mean, you could see, again, the focus and intensity today from the team across the board in every aspect of the game. And even the calls kind of went the Saints' way today. The ball kind of bounced their way on some of those 50-50 turnovers. Things kind of fell into place for them today. Now they got to carry that over to next week. We've seen in this league, it's hard sometimes to carry over these kind of performances.
Saints have won 3 out of 4. We've been saying for a while we thought 9-8 would be enough to get it done. They got to win to get there, and then they're going to need some help as well. So we'll see what happens. He's Jeff Duncan, columnist for the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. You can read his work on the site now. He's got his postgame column up. And that's it for the Saints Insider Postgame Show. Wish everybody a happy new year. LSU plays tomorrow. We'll find out what time the Saints play next weekend at some point tonight. So keep it locked to NOLA.com. We'll have all of those updates. And subscribe to the Saints on NOLA.com YouTube channel. And we'll be back with a full Saints Insider podcast on Wednesday. For Luke Johnson and Matthew Paris earlier, he's Jeff Duncan. I'm Zach Ewing. Patrick McGee, our producer today. And we appreciate you watching.